My name is Damian Pardo, and I'm the host for the Forward Miami Show. Welcome. If you don't know what Forward Miami is, it's a local nonprofit. They produce the Gay Festival, the Forward Gala at the Biltmore, and a variety of other programs. It's my great pleasure today to have with me Cindy Brown, who's the program manager for JCS Lambda Living. And Cindy and I are old friends. We go, right?
We go back longer than I've even been alive. I don't know how that's possible.
We go back a long time, and we've both been very active in the community. And I think as we age, right, naturally,
those aging concerns come up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Those aging concerns come up. So we really wanted to do a show about aging, about the kind of issues that come up, the kind of services we need to address. And as we look forward to the future, what are the issues? What are the things we should be, as a society, concerned about with our community?
Right.
So Cindy, good intro. First, though, before we go there, I want to know a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a native Floridian, born in St. Pete in 1961. So that is proof that I am a senior, being 60. I grew up in Miami. I went to Miami-Dade. Then I went to University of Miami. So I'm definitely a Miami-educated
A Miamian.
A Miamian, that's right. And as Damian mentioned, we've known each other for a while. I've been involved in LGBTQ plus activism for 30 years. And it has been quite the ride. And it has also been probably some of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in my life. And met some great people like you, Damian. And my professional career in the LGBT community has been quite diverse as well. For local organizations. I'm a founder of the Aqua Foundation. I worked for Health Crisis Network, which is where Damian and I first met. And I was the first executive director of Miami Beach Gay Pride. Mm-hmm. I ran the LGBT Visitor Center for the Miami-Dade Gay and Lesbian Chamber Foundation. I worked for Equality Florida. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm in my senior years, I used to call myself a junior senior. But since I passed that 60 mark, I think I need to drop the junior title. But I now run the Lambda Living program for LGBT seniors at Jewish Community Services of South Florida. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be Jewish to participate in our programs at all. As a matter of fact, most of the participants in Lambda Living are not Jewish. Mm-hmm. And we provide a lot of programming activities to try and combat social isolation, even before COVID. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of factors that make LGBT seniors more vulnerable than seniors in general. Now, seniors in general have a lot of important issues that they're dealing with. And when you look at the LGBT senior population, those issues are just exacerbated.
Yeah. It's just like a higher level of some of the same issues.
Exactly.
I mean, I would think that a lot of LGBT folks don't have kids.
No, I mean, that they are 4 times as likely to live alone, feel socially isolated. When you're talking about people who are seniors now, these are people who were born maybe in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and early 60s.
Yeah.
And the reality is that growing up during those times, it wasn't as free. You weren't as free to be out. There was a lot more discrimination. And many people, when they did come out, families and friends, walked away.
Well, actually, that population I'm very concerned about, and I'll tell you why. I still know of many, many people who use senior services here in Miami-Dade, but they went back in the closet.
Right.
So they're just, they're with their brother or their sister, and they're afraid because it doesn't seem like these programs that are there are very welcoming or even touching the subject.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why Lambda Living exists, because we provide all of that programming from the JCS side through the counseling and case management and, food bank services and senior centers.
But what's interesting to me is that, obviously LGBTQ is an intersectional community.
Mhm.
People use that word a lot.
Right.
Not the best word in my
Right,
opinion,
yeah.
but I get it. But in that intersectionality, it's kind of easy to just go back to your communities. So a lot of
Mhm.
people I know want to be at those places.
Right. And
They just don't feel welcome.
that's why, with Jewish Community Services, we have, I think, 3 meal sites. We had more, but many closed due to COVID, and we're still not back to opening them all back up to full service. And at any one of those sites,
Where are they
LGBT
located? What part of
seniors
town?
there's one on Miami Beach. There's one in Aventura. Actually, I think there are 2 in the Aventura, North Miami Beach area.
Are there any west?
Not at this point.
Okay.
There are county facilities, and we're working diligently with people in the county. Mayor Levine Cava is awesome when it comes to LGBT equity. And they're working very hard on making sure that the senior service programs that the county provides are open and welcoming. And that includes some training. But the reality is that, you can have a facility being open and welcoming, but you can't control the clientele. So what we try and do with Lambda Living, and by the way, all of our programs are open to allies as well.
Well, when you're talking about these centers, these aren't LGBTQ centers.
No, these are mainstream.
Right. These are all
centers.
mainstream facilities,
Right.
but they're welcoming to
Right.
LGBT.
One of the big challenges here in Miami-Dade County is we are a huge geographic area. So to have, say, one meal site for the LGBT population, it's impossible because someone's going to have to drive an hour to get
Right.
there. A lot of folks don't
And
have
lots of LGBT
transportation.
folks don't want to be just.
No, they don't. So
right.
we have those opportunities, but at Lambda Living, we do other things that really go to the crux of social isolation. We do social activities that are fun. For example, on this Thursday, we're taking a group to the Van Gogh immersion exhibit on Thursday morning at the Olympia Theater downtown. And, that's something that's very popular, and a lot of people have been going and talking about it. And we do have some funding. So although people can purchase their ticket to join us, we always offer scholarships to those who ask for it. We don't make you prove that you're low income. We trust that if you are asking us for a scholarship, that you need one. And oftentimes those individuals that have greater means, when they buy their ticket, they'll buy an extra ticket to sponsor another senior. So of any of the programs that we do, like the Van Gogh Museum, we've gone to the Frost Museum, Fairchild. We rented a bus and went up to the Murakami Japanese Garden in Delray. We've done the same and gone down to the Redlands and done like a Redland Riot tour with 5 stops. No one is ever turned away for inability to pay, ever. So that's one of the main things that we are very proud of. We do get funding. Our fund is a major funder of ours that makes it possible for us to make sure that nobody is, sitting out because they can't afford it or they don't have transportation to get here or there. So,
and do you have other activities like sports, or is there things for Spanish speakers?
We have limited things for Spanish speakers. We do partner with a lot of other organizations with our virtual calendar. We have all kinds of programs, from exercise to nutrition workshops, finance, financial planning, market updates. technology classes, and we also have some things in Spanish. We don't have as much in Spanish that we would like to. One of our other challenges is outreaching to the community. And those who are most in need are the hardest to find. And that becomes a big challenge for us when we're trying to provide services. When we go to senior health fairs, and we go whenever we have an opportunity and there's a senior health fair, we are there. We put up our rainbow flag, and it is a beacon. LGBT seniors don't see that at their health fairs. They don't see that, when they go to senior service organizations. They don't have that that comfort. Like you said, many people who are getting older are going back into the closet.
Yeah.
So when we are at these senior health fairs, it's amazing because they're drawn. They see the rainbow flag and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy that you're here."
Yeah.
We didn't know there was anything for us. So, COVID kind of put us back a ways in our outreach, but now we're starting up again. So we're doing that outreach again. And
I mean, I just feel like in the county or just in general, if you look at it like a plumbing system of services, all we really need to do for this population is make the tubes a little wider,
right,
just to really acknowledge or give a symbol where they know that they could be safe. Because I've talked to so many elder people who go to their primary physician, a lot of these clinics,
right,
a lot of these service providers, and they still, even in their case management, they're never asked if there's an different orientation or a gender identity, and that can have health
absolutely
impacts.
I am a strong advocate for updating that intake paperwork.
Right.
I had a conversation one time with someone who was involved in affordable housing in Miami Beach, and I asked them about how many LGBT people do you think you have in your affordable housing. She was offended that I even asked that question. It was like, "Oh, that's none of my business." And I was really shocked at that. And I educated her. I said, it's in your best interest to know this, because how can you serve people when you don't know what their culture is? We ask people their ethnicity. We ask people their race. Why? Because there are differences, and there could possibly be differences in the way treatment is presented.
Well, statistically, we know with diabetes, with arteriosclerosis, and same with LGBT population, there are certain things that might, we've talked a little bit ago about monkeypox, about just other things that a population might be at risk of, which really helps you right from the very beginning to identify.
Right.
And it just breaks my heart to think that at 80 or 85, you have to feel like it's your brother, and you can't talk about the person who's been taking care of you and who you love and who you've had a life with.
The second part of why asking those questions on an intake form or when you're seeing a new medical provider, it validates their existence. If they go into a healthcare provider and they're asked what their orientation is or what their gender identity is, immediately that individual knows that they're seen.
Right.
That they exist, and they know that if their medical
it opens
provider
up the door to talk.
Yeah, if they're asking that question, that means they're prepared to have them as a patient, and they're prepared to treat them appropriately.
Right. And they can really seek guidance because they feel like they're aware of more of their surroundings and the issues that involve them.
Right.
Sure.
And the importance of being so honest with your healthcare providers. If you are afraid to be honest, you're not going to get appropriate healthcare. And, as you mentioned, so many as they get older get that fear again because they lose their independence.
And I mean, just with age comes more vulnerability. So for some, it may be not knowing English, not feeling like, oh, wow, nobody's going to understand me, when in a critical misinterpretation, of something could cost my life.
absolutely.
And for others, it's just being able to be yourself and have the people you care about surround you, as
Right.
opposed to lying about,
Mhm.
who they are.
Yeah, and I think that the senior provider world is getting the message. I've been in a number of conference calls with other providers with the Alliance for Aging.
Mhm.
I actually was asked to do 2 presentations about why LGBT seniors are different than non-LGBT seniors. And
That's great. That's
those 2
excellent.
presentations, one of them was for the Alliance staff in general, and the other one was for all the providers under the Alliance.
Is the county doing this type of thing with
Yeah,
their
as a
staff?
matter of fact, I just got an email, I believe it was yesterday, from one of the mayor's assistants. We had met months and months ago on the county allocating funds for a needs assessment in the community.
Mhm.
And actually today it's they're hearing it in the county commission. So we're hopeful that the Board of County Commissioners gives it the thumbs up, and then we'll really get a needs assessment here in Miami-Dade County as to what is missing.
Mm.
When you look at funding that's available, there is not a lot of funding in Miami-Dade County for LGBT organizations. And when there is, it's more targeted to youth or people with HIV. LGBT seniors is kind of like back in the corner somewhere. And it's really important to advocate for more funds. I mean, it's great and wonderful to support the youth, but the other end of that spectrum is just as important, because these folks who are seniors now, they paved the way for the work that you and I did decades ago.
Mhm.
We wouldn't have been able to do what we did without them. And we have to honor them and treat them with dignity and respect. And as we know, no one's just going to come to our community and hand it to us. We've had to work for everything that we've achieved, and we continue to do so.
Right. And I would think a needs assessment would be somewhat difficult too, because we're not included in a lot of categories for identification purposes, including the census.
Right.
So doing a needs assessment hopefully stays away from the politics and really kind of tries to identify a good methodology.
Well, there's a team that includes not only the mayor's staff, but major LGBTQIA organizations like Equality Florida and SAVE.
Yeah, the political stuff worries me when it comes to a needs assessment.
But they have a unique tool, because they go door to door. They have data about individuals that we don't necessarily have. And the county has a lot more resources than a lot of these organizations. So, I'm hopeful that they will, with the help of, the organizations around, will be able to really find.
So I would think Care Resource.
I'm sure.
Other.
Yeah, I just named a few.
Yeah.
I mean, JCS was at those meetings as well.
Oh,
so, we'll in the chamber as well, going through the resources that we have.
I think it's great news that they're doing that needs assessment. I think it's very.
Hopefully, we'll get some good data out of it and be able to really, better target the population.
Absolutely.
Because, like I said, it's so difficult to find, homebound LGBT seniors that need assistance. You don't know how to reach them. Some are technology averse. So,
well, especially if you think they may not know the language, or they may not know. I mean, there are a lot of other obstacles.
Yeah, and we've done some work with synagogues and churches and stuff, but a lot of older LGBT folks have turned from the church because the church rejected them. So, they don't even have that that community where you can go out and access them.
Mm-hmm. And again, social isolation.
Mm-hmm. It's just, you know, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. Interesting analogy in Miami, but the more isolated you are, the more isolated you will continue to be.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things you and I were talking about was cognitive impairment, and really what that means as you get older for everything.
Right.
So I'm in the financial world, and I see in the financial world the kind of horrible things that are happening to people as they age, simply because
there's nobody watching out for them.
There's nobody watching out for them. And in today's world, with technology and with the way we're structured in the finance world, there's so much you can do in a split second.
Right.
Transfer money, decisions are made, things can just change all of a sudden very quickly.
Right.
For someone who's not all there, who's not processing cognitively the same way, it's so easy to have a family member run up close to them and ingratiate themselves, and all of a sudden you're watching hundreds of thousands of dollars transfer or leave.
It's really a shame. And of course, in the gay community, and I use that word as an umbrella, we've seen it time and time again. Even when people put their wishes down, when somebody dies, the family who hasn't seen them in 25 years and had no interest in them, now that they've passed, they're going to swoop in and try and get the assets that they have no business accessing. So there's a lot of elder abuse financially in the
for
LGBT
sure, which is another reason
population.
People really need to make sure that they make their plans, their estate plan, whatever plans they want, when their mind is clear, when they're old enough to kind of go down with witnesses saying that there was no impairment or cognitive impairment. Because the moment there is any kind of impairment,
that's it.
You're opened up to lawsuits, you're opened up to all different kinds of things. So I think, and that has very much changed. That wasn't the way 30 years ago things would happen. So I've just seen, even like in today's world with Zelle and with all the different ways,
so easy.
It's so easy. It's so easy. And a lot of these folks, number one, they're not aware. They don't know. They're not up to date on the technology. They're not up to date. Someone could ask them to do something that's seemingly very innocent.
Right.
And before they...
the lack of comfortableness with technology leads folks to click on a link in an email, or if you see something that looks official, you don't have the sophistication to say, oh, this says it's from my bank, but the email it's coming from is a weird email.
I'm going to give you two stories real quick, because I mean, they're good examples. One was a client who had a friend, all of a sudden, younger friend at Starbucks, right? Show up at his house, and he would bring a frappuccino like every morning, and he worked on his computers. And then, he would tell me, oh, this person's super nice, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden I see a change come through of beneficiary on moving about $600,000 to this individual. And, I immediately called the attorney and I said, we need to go there in the morning, because there was cognitive impairment.
Right.
So they're clearer in the morning than they are in the afternoon. And we sat there and basically had it reduced significantly and readjusted it in front of both of us, so that we were witnesses to the entire thing.
Yeah.
But I was looking out for this individual. A lot of times that doesn't happen. The other day, one of my clients called and said, you know what? I sent, there's been fraud on my account. I'm like, oh, wow, what's happened? And she says, yeah, there's fraud, but it wasn't on any of the accounts I have with you. It was at another provider. And then they called me from this other provider who I don't have an account with. And they told me that this fraud had been perpetrated. And these individuals needed $20,000 to in order to catch these folks. And I needed to send it to Western Union. Well, she ended up sending, I think, a total of $50,000 to Western Union, which of course is gone.
Yeah.
Right. And she was still scared and worried and upset And it didn't occur to her that none of this made any sense.
Right.
Because a financial institution will never ask you to reveal information
Exactly.
like that,
Right.
much less ask you to transfer money anywhere.
Yeah, and there's also
unless it's a loan you owe on.
the grandma email scam where you'll get an email from someone that says, "Hey, grandma, I'm stuck," and
Europe traveling.
yeah, and instead of picking up the phone and calling their grandchildren, they wire money. I mean, I get those emails from, like, I would get an email from you, Damian, saying, "I'm stranded in Europe, I need money." And I'm like, if Damian needed money, he certainly wouldn't send me an email. But yeah, I mean, these seniors are very vulnerable. And I also think that being engaged with programs like Lambda Living, where they have access to information and community with other seniors where we can talk about these kinds of issues, I think it's very helpful.
What would be your advice to just a senior out there that is going through isolation, and where could they turn that might be easier? Obviously, the website for you.
Right. Well, I would say, you can call me, you can email me, or you can call JCS and say, "Hey, this is an issue. I'm a senior. I'm lonely."
And what if they're not connected? What if they don't know English? They're in a different part of town.
Well, what we have done in the past is we've connected folks that, like, for example, we got a call about a gentleman who was in an ALF way out in Kendall, speaks only Spanish. I connected them with two of our major supporters who live out there, and they made a commitment to call them or, every once in a while, or go visit them in the ALF just to have something, like that. The challenge, though, when you're trying to set up a program like this is exactly what we were talking about, is seniors are vulnerable. So we will never send anyone to visit anyone unless they're background checked or we know them personally and know them to be of, high integrity. Like, I don't think I would have you background checked.
Right.
But, we have to be very careful.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Because we're not going to send someone into somebody's home if there's even the slightest possibility that there could be some kind of abuse. If you do need some kind of support, I'm going to give you a phone number right now. So write it down. It's 305-576-6550. I'll repeat that. 305-576-6550. That is the JCS access line. So that is the point of entry for any programs that we have. So if you feel you need case management, counseling, you want to hook up with our online program, you want to start participating in some of our in-person programs, call that number. We'll get you hooked up. Just so you know, the in-person programs we do are scattered around. We have things in North Miami. Once a month, we have a program in South Miami at the Yes Institute, not too far from where we are right now, that is intergenerational. So we try and move things around so that people don't have to drive an hour or more to get to one location every time.
And Cindy, what about family members? Maybe not, it's a father or a mother and they're struggling and they need respite services or help.
There are some programs that if you're caregiving, they provide respite for caregiving. But once again, we have to be careful. We do have some, home health associated with JCS and, very inexpensive. And some take Medicare and Medicaid to provide some respite. But anyone who we would send into someone's home for respite would have to be background checked and all of that stuff. There are some other programs that can provide that. And if you give us a call, we can help you.
You can help
connect
point them
with that. Exactly.
Even for information, just
Absolutely.
Good information sites.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to speak to me directly, you can get to me through that number as well.
So the best way is to just reach out directly to the number.
Exactly.
You
Because
guys can
they
help.
they have a book of resources there.
Oh, I would
If
imagine.
it's not something that we can provide the service for, we will provide the resource. But, in terms of those basic services, counseling, case management, food assistance, socialization, virtual programming, we have that all in-house, and more.
Yeah. Well, listen, I told you we would run out of time quickly. Thank
And
you.
we have.
We have. Thank you for all the great work you do.
Well,
thank you
thank you,
very
Damian.
much. Keep it up. We need it. We need even more. So,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we ain't getting any younger, that's for sure.
No, we're not. And
All right.
everybody out there, thank you very much for joining us on Forward Miami Live, the Forward Miami Show, and we'll catch you next week.